Okay.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. Um, all right. Well, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Officially, welcome to the second drivers meeting. Um, yeah, we got a few things to go over. I'm sure it'll be fun. It's been a little while since the last one, so we've figured out some things to talk about. And yeah, uh, let's get going. Alrighty. So first up is a reminder on circle checks. So you should always be doing your circle checks. I hope we've made that clear at the beginning of every shift. It's important because, I mean, that's why you have so much time at the beginning of your shift before your first ride slot. If there are any issues with your van, including like a radio issue, but oftentimes like ramp or any like vehicle maintenance issues, it's important to know as soon as possible. Say if the radio were to be inoperable, you'd want to do your 10-5 during your circle check at the very start, just so we could figure out a van swap, or at the very least get you a portable figured out as soon as possible. Um, also, you should be marking all defects at the start of your shift, so like writing them down on the diagram, just so that we can track any body damage that there is. I am actually currently working on a new version of the Ford Transit defect sheets, pretty much making it from scratch, and it also includes the step. So that should hopefully help with figuring out where things are and references for damage. So please make sure you are writing down on that diagram and also going through the checklists. If we do find unreported damage on a van, we will look back at old circle checks, and if you didn't mark it, you could be held responsible for it. Officially, the policy is everyone who drove that van and didn't mark the damage after it's determined to have been, caused, everyone gets some sort of disciplinary action taken. So please keep that in mind. Please write that down to cover yourself. It's very important. We can go on to the next.
I'm trying.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so checklist at the top. Again, that is kind of a newer addition as of like last semester, I think, or maybe over summer. But essentially, those are just some things we want to make sure you guys are checking. So, all the lights, reflectors, making sure the hood is locked, valid inspection sticker, though maintenance is always on top of that. Just things like that. Want to make sure securements are present in the vans and that there are like seatbelt pieces just so that, that's all available and ready to go. Windshield washers was actually a fun one to pop up recently because I think it's 1180. The rear washer is broken and kind of just shoots backwards in a bit of a jet towards any vehicles behind it, which is fun but not useful or good in any way for us. So it's something we want to keep track of. Odds are that won't get fixed. 79 and 80 will be gone probably by this summer, but for reference, you want to make sure you mark any damage on the body and tires of the van. Generally, you're just going to be marking like any indication of rub on the tires and just scratching in like any body damage or like dents, anything like that on the actual diagram of the vehicle. If you do see any new damage, or like you notice any like 1050s or a new light on the dash, please let the dispatcher know as soon as possible. They can reach out to maintenance and check in with them about anything, see what's going on. Or maybe the dispatcher is aware of that particular damage or what caused it or something like that. They can tell you if it's good to go or if you need a new vehicle. And then you also definitely want to fill out the shift and driver initials at the bottom to take credit and to keep a log of whose circle check is whose. If you do like fill out your circle check and don't do that, it's not the absolute worst, but it can make it difficult for us to figure out who did what. And in very rare circumstances, someone else can swoop in and write their own initials there, and then we'll think you didn't fill one out. I'm sure a lot of you have noticed we've been emailing a lot more about missing initials or circle checks. We are trying to stay on top of that. Maintenance did have some things to say regarding our tracking of damage and whatnot, so we are trying to improve that, keep them happy, and keep ourselves covered. So we're going to keep doing that. We're going to stay on top of those moving forward. That's going to be the new norm. At least recently, there have been far fewer cases of like missing circle checks and whatnot. So it's nice to see. But
Okay. Speaking of unreported damage, this is our reminder to report, report, report. I feel like we've said this at every meeting for a while, but just a refresher on the different types of things you should be reporting. First, we have off tracks. So this is when the wheels of the van come into contact with anything other than the road or air. Examples of this are swiping the curb with your tire, rolling into a curb if you're doing like a tight three-point turn and you just inch a little too far forward and your tire hits the curb. Um, Fully driving over a curb is also an off track. Um, Also, especially this time of year, if you're driving over a particularly bad pothole, those do also count. A great way to tell is if you cringe, you should probably report it. Um, More on that later, though. And then accidents. This is when the body of the van comes into contact with anything other than air. For the transits that have that side step that sticks out, if you swipe a curb, but it's that, not the tires, that's technically an accident. You should call it in as such. Same with swiping a snowbank or just fully hitting a snowbank accident. Um, Backing into a pole, colliding with another vehicle, all accidents, all essential to be reporting. Especially accidents, you need to stop in the moment and call it in immediately. Um, and then lastly, incidents. These are any events that happen in or around the van that could become a bigger issue. This includes complaints, uncomfortable or odd interactions with passengers, if you witness an accident that you're not actually involved in, um, near miss accidents, road rage, anything like that. Like especially if there's a possibility that like somebody might like call in a complaint about you, you want to just give your perspective as well. To just kind of, well, we're gonna reach out if that happens, but best to just cover your bases and report. And in any case, when in doubt, just call it in. We would rather have you reporting something minor than failing to report something major. So, yes, that is that. Zach.
yes, so potholes. We are kind of in the midst or the tail end of pothole season. I have seen the town trying to fill them in. Stress on the word trying, but it's getting done. Just a note that hitting a particularly bad one is considered to be an off track. A good rule of thumb is if you hit a pothole and you cringe because it felt awful and it sounded bad and you could feel the dollar signs flying out of your vehicle, then it's probably worth reporting it. Um, it's just because the suspension can't get damaged, it can weaken the tires. So we do want to make sure we're keeping track of that. Again, as mentioned earlier, it's part of our effort to keep a track on like damage and whatnot. And potholes can be pretty nasty towards our vehicles. So we want to make sure that if there is a bad one, you just document it. Odds are it's not going to be held against you if there is like damage. Potholes can be unpredictable. We just need to know when and how they happened. That way it can help maintenance figure out what happened and what they need to do for the vans. So stay vigilant and do your best to avoid them. If you need to leave your lane a little bit to go around one, that's okay. Always just check for traffic and other like bikers before doing so. You can also try straddling the potholes, sending them between your wheels. Anything really just to minimize the number you're hitting and how bad of potholes you're hitting. Um, the vans will be happy and maintenance will be happy as well.
Okay. Um, Next up, you guys should have all received. Oh, why, thank you, Shannon. Um, Yeah, okay. You guys have all received an email with pretty much this exact thing verbatim, but I just want to go over it now in case anyone has any questions. So we're doing a new style for RO training with AVS, and we're having them do observations. They're doing one dispatch and one driving observation. Purpose of the driving observation is to get them comfortable enough with AVS to be able to cover dispatch rides as the RO when needed. Um, they haven't really received any like formal ABS training. We had like a presentation and they got intros to the vans. But unlike our ABS trainees, like their observation is the first time they'll actually be like driving for AVS. So be patient with them. And be ready to be informative and helpful. What we expect of you, first and foremost, is to explain the map project to them and have them practice finding a few locations at the beginning of your shift, ideally. They should also be the ones driving, so this is like a regular observation. They should be driving, opening doors for passengers, handling the ramp and securements for 1023s, all that kind of stuff. You're just there to watch and provide information when needed. Um, and if they do have any questions that you aren't sure about the answer to, feel free to defer to the dispatcher, or you can send us an email with the trainee's name and their question, and we'll follow up with them. Don't answer anything you're not confident in. We'd rather just, we'd rather just follow up than get things confused. But I think for the most part, you guys know what you're doing, and we're confident in you. And lastly, as every observation should, please remember to submit a form at the end of your shift. Ideally, dispatchers should be giving it to you at the start of your shift or at least at some point. So if you don't get one, please ask for one. Everybody forgets things sometimes. It's a team effort, but as long as in the end you submit it, we are happy. Um, and while talking about observations, just a little side note. Um, our normal style for this is to just assign them and then you come in, and if you have one, you learn right then in the moment. But if you would like a heads up that if you have any ride-alongs or observations assigned to your shifts in advance, please just send us an email to let us know that you would like that. We will do our best to keep track of everybody that's requested that and give as much notice as possible um, so that it's not just an in-the-moment thing. Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about the RO observations? Okay, moving on. I don't remember if this slide is me.
I mean, I can take it if you want.
I don't care. Who is supposed to do it?
Uh, uh, you.
Okay, sorry about that, guys. So, parking update. We can officially return to our usual parking procedure with all six of our vans being parked in Fort Byam in the ABS garage. For a lot of you, this is just going back to normal, hopefully, but I know we have a handful of people that were hired over the summer and last semester that have not had a lot of practice or any at all with this, so we're just going to go over some of the things to keep in mind. First of all, it's a bit cozy in the garage with all six vans in there. So make sure the big vans, the transits, you can only have one in each lane. They will not fit if you do two on one side. Um, and you will have to pull up enough so that the you have to be mindful of how far up you pull because if you leave too much space in front of the van in front of you, then the person who parks behind you will not be able to fit and they'll have to move your van and their van to be able to get it in. And this is a team effort, so we'll try to avoid that. We have added some cones to the garage to help with this. So on either side of the garage, there's two cones. The idea is once the first two people park in the garage on either side, once you park, just go grab a cone, put it right up against the bumper of your van so that when the next person comes in, they have a guide of how close they can get, more so than just trying not to hit the van. Um, for everyone that is not familiar with parking in the garage, please just err on the side of caution. When in doubt, get out, and check how close you are before inching up more. Especially everybody's new to the Voyagers being parked in the garage, so just be extra careful. Those are our babies. We want to protect them. Um, so yeah, a good rule of thumb, it like generally the amount of space that can be left between the vans is like just enough that you could maybe like side shuffle through the space. It's not a lot of space, and it does kind of vary based on how far up people park, but it is close. Um, so yeah, and then also if you do misjudge and you inch up too far and your bumper makes contact with the pole at the end of the garage or one of the vans parked in front of you, that is considered an accident and you must report it. Um, if you happen to hit, if you tap the cone as opposed to one of the vans, that's an incident. But regardless, if your van taps something, you need to report that. Yeah. And then on the topic of that, now that we can park back in the garage, the van map has returned. I'm very excited about this. Um, Note for all Eve drivers. So you guys should be, you should be updating this at the very end of your shift. You're the last drivers there, so you you're the only person that sees how all the vans are parked before the AM dispatcher comes in the next day. Um, and they use that information to assign vans, so it is important to have it reported. When you fuel and park and you pull your van into the garage, just take a note, write it down, or however you remember things. The order of the vans. So you'll see on the thing. This side here is like the outside garage door. So these are the vans that are like readily available. These ones back here are the first ones that are getting parked and the back. So make note of that on either lane. This is the side that's closer to like transit and like the dispatch area. Yeah. And make note of that, write it in there. You'll see this one's written in red. Most people just write it in black, but technically there is a key up here. Red means yarded, we can't drive it. You most likely won't have to update that because that's probably a dispatcher thing, but that's what the colors mean. Um, and then once you've done all that, please make sure that you write in the date. Um, if you don't write it, if you update it and then don't write in the date, the AM dispatcher doesn't actually know whether or not it was updated or if that was the van map for the day before. So they're going to have to go check to make sure it's correct, which kind of defeats the entire purpose of you updating it. Um, so just make sure you're also adding the date so that they know it's accurate. And last thing about the van map, special pencils. They're shown in the bottom here. It's that black thing, the black pencil mostly in our little disposable coffee cup pencil cup for now. Hopefully we'll get a new one soon. It lives in there at the dispatch desk. Oh, also you can find the van map at the AVS dispatch desk, so you're welcome to go back to the dispatch area just to grab it. It's in like the corner kind of behind the phone. You'll see it if you go back there. Um yeah. And then one last thing, just a reminder for all the Eve drivers. Um, Before you leave at the end of your shift, you should be checking that all the other vans have been properly parked before you go home. Ideally, everyone's doing this at the end of their shift, everyone's parking it, but this is just a fail-safe, if there was like a van swap and the driver didn't know that they had to fuel and park it, or if someone just forgot and it's left outside, um, it's just really important that they're not being left overnight outside with the keys in them. It's a risk, and you are our like last checker to make sure that happens. And thankfully, now that they're all back in the garage, it's a lot simpler to be able to tell if there's a van in the yard at the end of the day. It probably isn't supposed to be there, so check in with the RO, see if it needs to be fueled, and park it before you leave. Next up.
Oh boy. So this is something new. We now have access to something pretty cool. So if we move to the next, it's called Samsara. The vans now have some pretty advanced telematics. Um, Essentially what this means is that all UMass-owned vehicles including our vans, are tracked. Um, Grace and I have gotten access to this, and we intend to give dispatchers access soon when we figure out exactly what we want them to do with it. But essentially, we can see vehicle status, how fast they've been going, and even if the seatbelt is buckled, which is a lot, and that is kind of crazy in a sense. We're more so letting you guys know is like transparency. We do not intend to use this to like fish for discipline or anything. So we don't we're not going to be like stalking you guys or like watching the vans or anything like that. We will only really be using this like for dispatchers to see where vans are at any given time, just so like we don't necessarily need to ask you guys what your 20 is or something like that. The dispatcher can just open it up. There's even a feature in there where you can share a link of the van. So like if a passenger doesn't know where the van is, we could like share a link with them that shows them where it is for like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, however long you set it to. So passengers can get live tracking of the vehicle if they're wondering where it is. Um, More or less, in terms of going and looking at archival data, because this stores every location a van has been for, I believe, like 3 months. So every single move a van makes has been recorded. This was first rolled out back in January, so since this was installed, we can see what every van has done at all times. It's fascinating stuff. But yeah, it tells us basically everything we need to know about the vans. And eventually, the plan for maintenance and fleet is to get cameras as well, which can be hooked up to this system and footage can be pulled. So if someone cuts you off or something and you feel it's worthy of an incident, we can probably pull footage of that at some point in the future. Um, Everything we're getting from this is more or less going to be used to either corroborate complaints or to exonerate you guys as drivers from said complaints. Again, we're not fishing for any discipline. We're not going to be checking this constantly. The only times we'll notice anything is like if you go significantly over the speed limit and it alerts us to that, or if you file an incident or a passenger complains, then we'll go back and check out and see what's going on. But all this is just to kind of let you guys know what's going on and what we now have access to. The picture there on the right is an example of the program. Um, but yeah, it's it's a lot. If anyone has any questions about this or anything else in the meeting, feel free to let us know. But this does conclude the driver's portion of tonight's meeting. So in just a minute, we'll move on to the dispatcher's portion. So if you're not a dispatcher, you are free to leave if you don't have any questions. So yeah, thank you all so much.
Commander, I actually have a quick question if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead. What's up?
Do you mind go back to like the slide that we talked about the map, like the parking map thing?
Yes, I can do that.
Thank you, thank you. All right, so say um I am the AM driver tomorrow, and then um I got assigned to 1529, but when I open the garage, like it's all the way in the front. So should I tell the dispatcher that 1529 is all the way in the front? Can you swap me a van, or should I just take 1180 and 1298 by myself and then take 1529 out?
So, the reason we do the van map is so that the AM dispatcher actually knows the order of the vans when they're doing van assignment. So ideally, they see this and they're not gonna give you 1529 because they know you're one of the first drivers. Um, so that's kind of to avoid that. If you got assigned 1180 and 1298 was in your way, I would say yeah, just pull 1298 out, get your van out, and then pull 1298 back in. But if they are giving you 1529 and you're the first driver, um, that is unideal. And you can mention it because maybe the van map was inaccurate and they thought it was in a different spot. Um, but yeah, does that clarify things?
Yeah, so I guess if I got like the middle ones, then I'll just pull them out and then uh yeah, pull like the one behind me out and then take that assigned van out and then take like the one behind me back in the garage then, right? And then if it's the one that's all the way in the front, I guess I'll just go back to dispatcher and ask for another van, right?
Yeah, more or
Yeah.
less that's what it would be.
Sorry.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that's all right then. Okay, so that's one thing. The other thing I have a question is like, do you mind back to like the defect sheet part? I have a quick question on the defect sheet thing actually.
This one?
Yes, thank you, Commander. So, say we are in a bad weather situation, and then I got like mid or AM whatever shift, right? And then when I got to my shift and do my circle check, but because of the weather, or if it's early morning, the light is not enough. It's not like um bright enough for me to like see a lot of spots. What if I missed the spot because that, if it's a rainy day or if it's not bright enough for me to see some type of dent or whatever. But if it's like a normal weather situation, I could have seen it, but I failed to report it. In this situation, what's gonna happen? Like, who's gonna be responsible and all that?
Yeah, so we're not going to hold that against you too much. We've both done circle checks in low light conditions. It can be difficult. Um, if it's like a small scratch or something that got missed, that's like fine. We're only going to be concerned if there's like, a huge dent or a missing panel or something that didn't get reported. In that case, we're going to be a little skeptical. But if it's just like some little scratches or scuffs that got missed because it was low light or bad weather, it's not going to be held against you too strongly. We'll probably just check in with you, but we're not going to be too harsh about that.
Gotcha. Sounds good. Thank you very much, commanders. Have a good night. I'll see y'all later.
And of course, thanks for joining. Bye.